Hello, this is the Landscape Ontario podcast. My name is Scott Barber, and today I'm speaking with Leslie Halleck. Leslie's a horticultural dynamo based down in Texas. She's an author, educator, speaker, business coach. She does it all, and she's going to be giving 2 talks at the Congress Virtual Conference on January 20th, 2022. One is going to be on the plant parenting revolution, and another on being digitally relevant, facing the new world of online commerce and communication head on. To check that out, visit congressredefined.com/conference. But first, we hope you enjoy this conversation with Leslie Halleck. It's coming up next. The Horticulture Technician Apprenticeship Program is a post-secondary education and skills development program recognized as a Red Seal trade in Canada. It's aimed at employers who have employees who want to make horticulture and landscaping their career. Earn while you learn. Attend an info session to know more at horticulturetechnician.ca/events. Okay, Leslie, thank you for joining us. I'd like to start with just asking you about yourself and what drew you to horticulture.
Ask me about myself. That's a really big loaded question right there. You could get a lot of answers for that. Well, let's see. I'm an art school dropout who got the plant and botany bug at 18. So after a couple of years in art school, I decided that I wanted to switch to a much more lucrative career. So I switched my major to botany, which, my parents were like so happy that I changed my major to art and from art. And I said, well, I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to get a botany degree. But no, I kid. It's turned out to be very, very good for me. So I am kind of what I like to call myself a multi-passioned entrepreneur. I love doing so many different things. And I think art and horticulture go hand in hand. So I don't think it's unusual that an artist is drawn to, horticulture and gardening. I think they're pretty symbiotic. So I am kind of just a crazy everythingist in the world of horticulture. I love doing everything. And if you look at my career for the last 30 years, you'll see that I've worked in many different disciplines, from plant research to public gardens, landscape industry, many years in garden center retail. And then about 10 years ago, I decided that it was better for everybody, with my problems with authority, if I just worked for myself and plugged in to help green industry businesses do a better job of communicating and marketing to their customers, as well as strategically develop their businesses. That's what I figured out I was really good at over my career, was communicating to customers and translating the science of horticulture right to the consumer. And so that in a nutshell is what I've been doing the last 10 years.
Awesome. What is it about that? And I know on your website you mentioned, one in particular, you have a passion for helping women succeed in this industry. What is it about that really gets you excited and motivated, do you think?
I think if you ask that question to a lot of women, it would be very obvious. I mean, let's face it. Most industries are male dominated, right? Okay, that's the reality. The power structure is male. I didn't have any women mentors or role models coming up in my career. I really had no one to model after or guide me, and it's very challenging as a woman. There are a lot of personality traits that get assigned to you, by gender, and when you don't conform to those things, like I have sort of a non-gender conforming personality. I'm very assertive. I'm very direct. I'm going to push hard, and that's not always taken very well when you're a woman. It's a lot harder to navigate. And so, I think what women are looking for in the industry right now is representation at the highest levels of power. And we don't have that yet. We're pretty far away from that. I think I can't tell you the number of emails I get from women industry members every time an announcement goes out for a conference of who the speakers are. And it's the majority men, a majority of white men, right, on the speaker roster. And I get a flood of emails going, wow, can we get some women speakers on the roster here? I was happy when I saw an email go out from Landscape Ontario that you guys featured several women speakers. So thank you for that, because that's not normal. But I think, my passion is to take up some space, be very visible, be very vocal, so that I can model for other women and help share my voice, share my power, and help open doors and give access to other working women in the industry. I think the reality is that there is a misconception and a misrepresentation that there aren't enough, quote, qualified women in the industry to be in positions of power or to be taking those keynote speaker positions or being on the speaker roster. And that is not true. We have more than enough qualified women working in the industry. The problem is that women aren't perceived to be as powerful, so they don't get those slots.
Right.
So I feel like my mission is to model that reality. Women are powerful. We have powerful voices. When women rise and are part of the power structure of companies are more profitable, period. Mm-hmm. Societies profit. We benefit from that. So what I'm looking to do is help create some parity in power and representation and success, because all of us, men and women alike, we all win when that happens. So that's really my goal there, is to hopefully maybe be a source of, not necessarily even inspiration, but just an example to other women that you can push into these places and have a voice, really.
I love it. I know, as you mentioned, the Landscape Ontario Congress Conference, I know the organizers, my colleagues on that event, they really take that seriously. Having a good mix of men, women, people from different backgrounds, because it is an important example to young professionals coming into the industry, and it just makes for a better, more diverse conference. Different voices, different ideas. So I know it's something Amy Buchanan, my colleague who really spearheads that event every year, she takes extremely seriously, and I think it's reflected as people can check out the lineup. And of course, you're one of our main speakers, or one of our speakers this year. I think it's reflected, and I think people are really going to enjoy it. So definitely agree with you there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, perspectives. We all have different perspectives and experience, that we can bring to the table. And I think the more diversity we can get there, the better everyone can grow in their careers and in their businesses. So I think that's important.
Absolutely. So I want to talk to you about some of the books you've written. I saw that a book this year published called Tiny Plants, Discover the Joys of Growing and Collecting Itty Bitty Houseplants came out this year. And I'll say, I know here in Canada, the demand for plants, the demand at garden centers for landscaping during the pandemic has just been really quite remarkable. Is that something you've seen down in the States? And can you talk a little bit about the book as well?
Ravenous. People are ravenous for plants, indoor and out. It's interesting. I actually had a goal to not write books. It's not a terribly profitable endeavor. Okay. Right. And so I was actually never going to write books, but my master's degree is in floriculture, greenhouse production, environmental controls. And Timber Press reached out to me at one point and said, hey, we're looking for somebody to write on grow lighting, indoor grow lighting. Do you know anybody? And my goal being, I'm not going to write books. I thought for a few days, legitimately, like, who can I refer them to? And then I realized I didn't really know anybody else that communicated in the consumer space, right? That wrote, that wasn't just an academic, but wrote for consumer spaces that had experience in that area. And so I said to the senior acquisitions editor, Tom Fisher, I said, well, I guess I could do it because that is what my master's degree is in. And so, and he was like, yeah, I was kind of hoping that's the conclusion you were going to come to. I just started like take a roundabout way. So I kind of got sucked into it. So it's interesting. I'm an interdisciplinary horticulturist. I've spent much of my career working in the outdoor space, landscape, edible gardening, design, that sort of thing. But, because of my education background, most of my books have ended up being in the indoor space, right? Indoor houseplants and growing, because there's been such a huge growth, renewed interest, right, in indoor growing. So it's just sort of interesting that my books have sort of been kind of pushed into the indoor houseplant space, even though I'm a huge, outdoor avid gardener and horticulturist. But the demand for plants is pretty huge. Now, anytime that you have sort of a rebound economically and consumers start to spend again on other things, household items, cars, things like that, the green industry tends to see a slowdown. But we had such a huge influx of new customers in the pandemic. And I think we're probably going to, retain maybe numbers say about 80% of those people. So plant demand is not going to drop to where it was pre-pandemic. It's going to stay pretty steady. And I'll tell you, there's a huge influx of entrepreneurialism in the green industry too. There's a lot of what I call new plantrepreneurs coming into the space. Everybody wants to open a plant shop. They call them plant shops. We call garden centers, right? They don't call them garden centers anymore. They call them plant shops. So I'm actually getting a ton of requests to do business consulting for a lot of these new plantrepreneurs that are coming into the space. Books, tiny plants is sort of a passion project for me. It's a very niche topic, but when I was doing research in the rainforest in Puerto Rico, in the El Yunque National Rainforest, after I graduated for the University of Puerto Rico, I discovered itty bitty tiny species of Lepanthes, micro orchids, and that was it for me. I was sucked in. I started building vivariums, keeping poison dart frogs, building all sorts of really cool, tiny, biospheres. And when you get into the world of tiny plants, it's sort of a whole different realm of plant sourcing, right? You start to work with companies that grow for vivariums, that grow for aquatics, that are sort of outside of your normal garden center plant purchasing realm. And so it was really just a way for me to have a little fun, take a really niche, hobby of mine and introduce people to like a whole new world of cool plants.
I love it. I love it. And how's the response been that came out this year, I believe?
Yeah, that was Tiny Plants came out in June of 2021. So it was supposed to be out earlier, but thanks to the pandemic, things got pushed back a few times. The book I put out in 2019 is called Plant Parenting, and that's all about propagation. And then Gardening Under Lights was in 2018, I think. I don't remember. So that's Indoor Grow Lights. I'm looking to potentially revise that book for a new edition. Nice. But so people have a real passion for plants and gardening. So I don't see that going away anytime soon. And while most of my work, my professional work, is centered around working with businesses, I feel it's really important for me to keep the other foot embedded in the consumer world, which is why I write the books for consumers, because it helps translate that science and it supports the industry, right? Absolutely. And I'm also doing a lot more teaching. So I'm an instructor now for UCLA Extension. So I teach horticulture, indoor plants, and I'll be teaching botany in spring. And I'm also the horticulturist in residence at a new education platform I launched with a partner called the Bloom and Grow Garden Society. So I'm teaching in-depth horticulture classes there, which, by the way, if you're a landscaper, garden center, and you've got staff that need continuing education and there's really not anywhere else for them to get it, opportunities like that I'm trying to create to have more higher level horticulture educational opportunities available, both to hobbyists and to people in the industry. And I think I'm jumping into that technology because I think that's just really where we're going.
Absolutely. And in this day and age, here you're obviously down in the United States, down in Texas, but with virtual platforms, really people can do it from anywhere, which is so nice. It really makes the world that much smaller.
Absolutely, for sure. And I think that, in terms of staff education, expanding virtual education opportunities is a must.
And that's one of the things that at the Congress conference that we're excited about this year. Being virtual again this year, we're able to have speakers from all over the place. Yourself down in the United States, we have speakers from Europe. It really becomes an international conference, which it had been in the past when it's been an in-person event in Toronto. But it really makes it that much easier to expand across North America and the world. So it's pretty neat. And I want to ask you just about your speaking at Congress, the conference in January. Would you mind mentioning or just telling us what the topics are, and I guess why you're excited to be a part of it?
Well, first off, I'm really bummed that I don't get to come to Toronto. I think I've been asked to speak twice, and the pandemic is coming. So here's the deal: I'm speaking for you guys virtually, but you have to invite me back once you're live again, so I can come to Toronto. Deal?
Deal. You know what? It might be better not to come in January unless you really. Oh. But we could maybe come out in June or July. How about that?
Okay. Well, we'll work something out.
Yeah.
So, I have to remember what I'm speaking on. I think I'm speaking on the plant parenting revolution, right? So that's going to be indoor trends. So kind of what I was mentioning earlier. I think that the industry is a little bit out of touch with the consumers. They've sort of created their whole own world, within that hobby that the industry isn't really necessarily tapped into. And so I'm going to dive into kind of really what's going on in that consumer base and what's driving them right now, and how both growers and garden centers can leverage that, better tap into that world.
It's just perfect timing. Yeah. Sorry. Perfect timing for that topic. And then, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, are you digitally relevant? Right. I think that's my other topic.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
Yeah. So, that's still a tough one, I think, for everybody, but clearly what the pandemic has done is forced everybody to rely on diving into digital technologies, whether you're working with online, customer service and ordering and communications, and the education that I was talking about. So I'm going to dive into sort of kind of where we all need to be with our digital technology and communication. So, if that's something that you feel you're struggling with, or, just really don't even know where you should be prioritizing your digital investments, I'm going to get into that.
That sounds great. I can't wait. I can't believe it's just over a month away. That's, I believe the conference itself is January 18th to the 20th. I believe you're speaking on the, is it on the 20th? I'm sorry, it's on the 20th.
Yeah, I think it's the 20th. Yeah, I guess I better get ready for that. I need to get everything together for you guys.
It's coming.
I do a lot of speaking and a lot of teaching. So, I'm just constantly creating class after class after class. So yeah. But I never give the same talk twice. So even if it's a topic I've talked about before, I'm compulsive that way. I don't think I've ever given the same talk twice. So even if it's a topic maybe you've seen me give before, I'm probably going to say a whole lot of new stuff. So I always revamp everything I do. Yeah.
That's great. Well, we're certainly looking forward to it. I'm sure, our audience, our members are really looking forward to the conference and to those sessions you mentioned. As I said, the timing is just perfect for both, really. So those are going to be great. And I want to thank you for chatting a little bit, letting us get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, and hearing about some of the projects you've been working on over the years. And we really look forward to seeing you at the conference next month.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and thanks for tolerating my post-flu raspy radio voice today. So I appreciate that, and wish I could be with all of you in Toronto, but I will happily join you virtually in January.
And then hopefully in 2023, we can all be together in Toronto for the conference in January. So we'll look forward to that. Awesome. Thanks so much, Leslie.
Thanks. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you for listening to Landscape Ontario podcast. We hope you'll subscribe to get a new episode every month.